It is 3 in the morning. You are awake. Not because of noise. Not because of pain. Not because anything has actually gone wrong tonight. Because your mind will not stop. It is replaying a conversation from 3 days ago that you cannot change. It is building worst-case scenarios for things that have not happened yet and may never happen. It is solving problems that do not exist and quietly creating new ones to replace them the moment they dissolve. And the harder you try to make it stop, the louder it gets. If you know this feeling, stay with me for the next few minutes. Because what the ancient philosophers discovered about the anxious mind at night is something that modern science is only beginning to understand. And it changes everything. Here is a number that will stop you cold. The average human being has between 60,000 and 80,000 thoughts every single day. According to research from the National Science Foundation, 80% of those thoughts are negative. And 95% are the exact same thoughts you had yesterday. You are not thinking at 3 in the morning. You are repeating the same fears, the same doubts, the same conversations that already ended badly, the same outcomes you cannot control, playing on a loop in the dark while the rest of the world sleeps peacefully around you. The ancient Stoics watched this happen to people for centuries. And they gave it a name. They called it the undisciplined mind. Not a broken mind. Not a sick mind. Not a mind that needs to be fixed or silenced or escaped. Simply a mind that has never been taught the one skill that matters most: how to observe itself without believing everything it says. Epictetus was born a slave in ancient Rome. He owned nothing. He controlled nothing. He could not plan a single thing about his own future because his future did not belong to him. By every measure the modern world uses to define a life worth living, he had already lost before he started. And yet his students, senators and generals and the wealthiest merchants in Rome would travel for weeks through dangerous roads just to sit in his presence. Not to learn strategy. Not to learn power. Not to learn how to win. To learn how to be okay. He told them something so simple it almost sounds like it cannot be enough. Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things. Read that again slowly. Not the 3 a.m. situation itself. Not the unpaid bill. Not the uncertain relationship. Not the job you are not sure about anymore. Not the health worry you have been carrying for weeks. Not the future you cannot see clearly. Your opinion about those things. The story your mind is writing around them in the dark. At 3 in the morning your mind is not actually solving your problems. It is writing fiction. Vivid, convincing, completely believable fiction that feels like truth because it is happening inside your own head. And you are lying there in the dark accepting every word of it as settled fact. Marcus Aurelius understood this from the other side. He was emperor of Rome. The most powerful man alive on earth. He made decisions every single day that determined whether millions of people lived or died. And he still lay awake at night. He still had the loop. He wrote this to himself alone in the dark when absolutely no one was watching. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Not power over the outcome. Not power over what other people choose to do or say or think about you. Not power over what tomorrow brings. Only over your mind. Only over the story you choose to tell yourself in the dark at 3 in the morning when the loop starts again. That is the only battlefield that has ever actually mattered. The Taoists approached the anxious mind from a completely different direction. But they arrived at the same truth. Zhuangzi wrote about a master cook who had worked with the same knife for 19 years without ever dulling the blade. His secret was not strength. Not precision. Not force. He never cut against the natural grain of things. He followed the spaces that already existed. He found where the structure wanted to open and moved through it without resistance, without fighting, without forcing. The anxious mind at 3 in the morning is doing the exact opposite. It is cutting against the grain of everything. Fighting uncertainty as though uncertainty were an enemy that could be defeated if you just think hard enough. Pushing against what might happen as though pushing harder tonight will somehow change what is not yet here. The Taoist answer is not to fight better or think more clearly or solve the problem before morning. It is to stop fighting entirely. To look at the anxiety the way the master cook looked at his work. Not as a problem to defeat, but as something with a natural structure that, if you simply stop resisting it, will show you where it comes from and what it actually needs from you. Here is what I want you to try tonight. Not a breathing exercise. Not a meditation app. Not a visualization technique or a gratitude list or counting backwards from 300. Just 3 sentences. When the thoughts begin again, do not try to stop them. Do not fight them. Do not negotiate with them. Instead, say these words quietly to yourself in the dark. My mind is doing what minds do. These are thoughts, not facts. I am safe in this moment. That is all. Not because it silences everything immediately. Not because it solves the problem your mind has been circling for weeks. But because it changes your relationship to the thoughts themselves. You stop being inside the fiction. You become the one watching the fiction from the outside. And the moment you can observe a thought instead of automatically believing it, it begins to lose the power it has been holding over you. Epictetus called this making room between the stimulus and the response. In that room, no matter how small, no matter how brief it feels at first, your freedom lives. You do not have to solve everything tonight. You do not have to have it all figured out by morning. You are allowed to be a person lying in the dark who simply does not know exactly what happens next. That is not weakness. That is the most honest thing a human being can be. And the greatest philosophers whose words have survived 2,000 years because they were true enough to last, they lay awake in the dark too. With the same thoughts. The same fears. The same loop that would not stop. They just learned, slowly, imperfectly, over a lifetime of practice, to watch it instead of becoming it. And that is all any of us are doing. One night at a time. If this found you at the right moment, share it with someone who is lying awake tonight. You probably already know who that person is. I will see you in the next moment of stillness.